Hey folks, give me a second. As it is not the 1 o'clock time yet, we're just getting things ready, that's all, but we will have a devotional. Just hang with me for a minute or two. I know we're early, we're pre-1 o'clock, but I'm glad you're here and glad you're able to join us. There we go, that's working. That's working. Okay, hold on. Rejoice, rejoice. There we go. Okay.
Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O we.
All right, well, thank you for joining us for this, I guess we're going to have two more after this. Two more for our Advent season, and today we're going to take a look at devotional reading again from our friend Dr. Sinclair Ferguson. Let me see if I can find it. Talk amongst yourselves. Talk amongst yourselves. All right, today we're going to look at, all right, let's see here. There we go. 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 and 5 say this: love does not insist on its own way. Many of us will have to remember this during our time with family, with friends, with all these other folks during the Christmas season where we're lovingly, graciously forced into fellowship in close proximity. Ferguson writes this: in our culture, we are obsessed with one thing and one thing alone, ourselves. In the absence of any transcendent significance to life, creating, loving, and fulfilling the self fills the vacuum. Youngsters are taught, thank you. Thank that person for liking our video. Youngsters are taught from a very early age. Wow, they're clicking a lot of likes. Thank you, Umar. Youngsters are taught from a very early stage, often in schools, to trust in themselves, to know they are princesses or princes, and to be assured that they can do anything which they set their minds to. It is perhaps not surprising that in an age when secular scientists insist we are exclusively material beings and tell us there is no real quote-unquote self, Other than our biological functions, the longing to find a self has taken on epidemic proportions. I think he's onto something. We are so hungry for an identity. Tell me who I am. The self. So, people can self-identify as this or that. Thus, self-directed love is seen as the fundamental birthright, even while our governments take it upon themselves to decide when there is a self who has the right to birth. The problem, as Augustine saw so clearly, is our self-directed love, and it's called amour sui. Self-directed love leads to personal and societal disaster whenever it is severed from amor Dei, God-directed love. So when our self-directed love is separated from God-directed love, there's personal and societal damage. Of course, there's a proper love for self, of course. Jesus said we should love our neighbor as ourselves. So the implication is that we will love the latter. But why is that not the same as self-love? Because it isn't self-directed love. Instead, it is rooted in realizing that since we are made as the image of God, we should treat his image with respect and care. And we should do the same to others who likewise are the image of God. The secular humanist who denies that humans were created as the image of God thus makes man out to be far less than he is seen to be in the Christian teaching. In fact, Christians are the highest humanists. Secularists, by comparison, are dehumanist and reduce the dignity of man. Yet, despite all this, men and women remain the image of God, and they thirst for significance, even though they cannot explain why. Boy, if there's anything more deep and poignant than that, boy, that is so true. So long as that is the case, Augustine's most famous words remain true. God has made us for himself, and our hearts are therefore restless until they find their rest in him. But left to ourselves, all we have is ourselves. Indeed, as some secularists have the courage to say, in this worldview, there simply is no meaning to life. There are no answers to what have always been thought to be ultimate questions. Questions like, why is there something and not nothing? Who am I? What is the purpose of life? What is my destiny? If we have to invent our own answers to these questions, it is hardly surprising that amor sui, love directed to self, is promoted so vigorously. Yet the questions cannot be suppressed, even when we repress them. Is there no answer to them? Well, perhaps Lily in Jane Wagner's play, The Search for Intelligent Life in the Universe, is right when she says this: I worry where tonight fits in the cosmic scheme of things. And then she adds, I worry there is no cosmic scheme to things. Christmas says there is a cosmic scheme of things. God made us as his image to reflect his glory. We have sinned. We have fallen short of that glory. But the Son of God, who is the very image of God, was sent by God and came in love to restore his image. Through faith in him, we discover that our lives fit into the cosmic scheme of things. He recreates in us a love for himself and restores us to fellowship with himself, which transforms self-directed love into love of neighbors. That is the destiny for which we are created. In this way, the birth of Christ leads to our rebirth. That new birth sets us free from the tyranny of the project of the self. In Christ, we enter a new creation where life begins to make ultimate sense. And since we have found our true identity in Christ, we're no longer left to our own devices to try and discover who we really are. Here's a neat little summary of what happened that first Christmas from the early fathers of the Christian church. Quote, Christ became what he was not in order that we might become what we are not. End quote. In order to fill us, the Son of God emptied himself. And in order to give us life, the Son of God became obedient to death, even death on a cross. And when we trust him, we die to self and begin to live for him and for others. For he died that those who might live no longer live for themselves, but for him who for their sake died and was raised. That's where Paul says the love of Christ compels or controls us. The incarnation of the Son of God was a radical event, and the gospel is a radical message. Jesus said that this discovery of self always involves losing or denying self. And what does denying ourselves look like? Well, often it looks like not insisting on our own way when we could, and instead laying down our preferences for the sake of others. Sometimes that means we won't insist on celebrating Christmas with that particular part of the family or in this particular way or with those particular traditions. We won't insist that we're too tired to help with the washing of dishes. Instead, we will choose love. And love does not insist on its own way. In George MacDonald's fantasy tale, The Golden Key, one of the characters, his name is Tangle, meets the old man of the earth who gives her, who gives her further directions in her life quest. It says this: Then the old man of the earth stooped over the floor of the cave, raised a huge stone from it, and left it leaning. It disclosed a great hole that went plumbing down. That is the way, he said. But there are no stairs. You must throw yourself in. There is no other way. The discovery of who we were created to be takes place in the same way. There are no stairs. You need to throw yourself into the love of Christ. It is all or nothing. In trusting him, you will lose your life, and at the same time, you will find it. You must die to self to find yourself, and then you will be set free from self-love that has crippled you all your life. But you must first throw yourself in. There is no other way. Jesus said that there is only one way to the Father, himself, and that fact, he came at Christmas, means that you can throw yourself into loving selflessly today. You need to throw yourself into the love of Christ. What holds you back from that? What would throwing yourself into selfless love look like today? Good words from a fantastic, gifted, wonderful man of God, Sinclair Ferguson. I'm going to get up out of this scene and play a Christmas song, and then we'll see you Sunday, Lord willing, maybe Saturday. There's Christmas caroling going on. There's a lot of stuff going on. Christmas caroling, I believe, starts at 3, and for one group. But anyway, it's all in the bulletin, all online, and all the other stuff. But remember, the season is a time of self-forgetfulness because we serve one who emptied himself. So, thank you for joining us. We will see you soon, Lord willing.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let men their song